Hey, book girlies, I'm Sarah.
Hey gamer guys, it's Ian.
And you're listening to a pot of sass and sarcasm. So let me get this straight. We've not recorded for 2 whole weeks, and in that entire time, you haven't played a single game.
Well, I guess you could say I played Seven Wonders.
What was the other one that we played?
Um
Oh, it was like Planet Unknown, I
Yeah,
think.
Planet Unknown.
Yeah. So these are a couple board games.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about either of them?
Guess we could talk a little bit about Seven Wonders.
Okay. Tell me about Seven Wonders.
Seven Wonders is a board game that revolves around cards and how you decide to purchase and spend resources. The easiest way to think of it is you are a specific empire. So for example, say you're Egypt. And your wonder is the pyramids of Giza. And so your goal is to attain victory points. Several ways you can get victory points: through building your wonder or through just various cards in the game. And so one of the primary ways to play the game is either you generate resources yourself by picking cards that give you resources, or you have to purchase the resources from the people next to you. So there isn't too much involved with competing with your neighbors. You can't inflict too terribly much damage on them by how you play. So it's more of I see it more like a single player game, honestly.
It's a game that you all play at once. There's not really, nobody's necessarily taking a turn. You're all taking turns at the same time. And it's you can't really tell how well somebody's doing until you count up the points at the end. That's what I like about it. The other thing that I like about it is that in order for a round to be had or done, played, whatever, the entire deck for that age is handed out, and then you just pass, you get to play one card from your hand, and then you pass your whole hand on to the next person, and then you get a new hand. And so there's not really the luck of the draw as far as you get to see more or less all of the cards. I mean, obviously you won't get a chance to use some of the cards that some people have, that they chose to play. But at the same time, you will eventually see most of that deck. It'll come through your hands a couple times. And so it's not somebody just got lucky and had all of the purple cards in one spot. It's no, you get to play one. And that was the hardest thing when we were playing, was there were so many times that I was I want to play 3 of these cards.
Yeah, but you're just not going to see it again. Or if it does make it around, they might not be there.
Right. That was always the big bummer.
Yeah. Well, and that's also the small amount of ways you can interfere with other people, is you can keep a card maybe that they would want.
Like I did to you with the bricks.
Yeah, but at the same time, it may not necessarily be good for you to keep that. There may be a better move for you to take for more points. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely took the bricks from you, but I did that to build my wonder. So I was haha.
And I had to pay you for the bricks.
Did you? I didn't have bricks. I didn't have a lot.
I didn't pay other people for very much, but...
Yeah, I didn't do terribly well in that game. I think the second round I got second place. The first round I got dead last. I'm usually really bad at games. That is one thing I've learned, is that I'm just actually not that good at games. The only reason I'm ever good at some games is just that I've played them before when other people haven't.
Oh.
But as soon as somebody's played them a couple of times, I'm terrible at them. Other than Phase 10, I'm phenomenal at Phase 10. I'm sorry, but I don't mean to brag, but I will beat your ass in Phase 10.
Maybe.
The other game that we played was called Planet Unknown, and it was interesting. It was the first board game I've ever seen that has a little Lazy Susan involved with it.
Yeah, a little Lazy Susan to select your pieces.
And I also thought that was really smart for it to be these are the pieces that you're allowed to take, because they land right in front of you. And I'm that's pretty fun. I didn't like that game though.
Really?
I felt like I was not getting lucky with my objectives that I had to work with. And I felt like the objectives I was given compared to the resources or the tiles that I had to select from was just impossible. There was one round when I had to both get the least technology and the least biomass. And I was so mad about it because every single round for like whether it was somebody else's turn and I could pick a tile or if it was my own turn. There were times when it was my own turn and every single tile that was available had one of those. And so I'm like, what is the lesser of two evils here? I don't know. And so then I just tried to I basically was like, I'm going to have to pick one to not get. And I chose biomass and it wrecked me.
Oh, really?
And it wasn't just that. It was, I had a lot of meteors that I had to deal with. And I don't know. I didn't dislike the game. I just never felt like I was in a position to be able to like get a leg up on it.
Oh, yeah. I can kind of see that, but
I think it would be more fun if it was like 2 players.
I was able to do whatever I wanted every time, so.
Yeah, I don't know how. I feel like you were cheating.
I wasn't, though.
You know who I also feel like was cheating? Troy. He was making up rules as we were going along.
No.
Oh, it was real fun.
Anyway, those were the games, and you played them with me.
I did play them with you. So, we do have a few quick updates before we get into the book.
Ooh, yeah, updates.
One of them's like a half update, and one of them is just I want to talk about it.
Okay.
So, the half update is that we have a few very special guests that are on our calendar. Like,
They're on the docket.
They are on the docket for recording, and I'm very, very excited about these guests that are going to be on the pod. I don't know when these episodes are going to premiere in relation to when they record, just because these are going to be kind of the weird episodes that aren't part of the season. I guess my goal is to get them recorded and edited. That is hard to say. Recorded and edited, so that then if we end up having a week where we need to be on vacation or something where we won't be able to get to record or something, that we can just publish that episode instead. So who knows when these episodes are going to be premiering. But with these special guests, I want to keep it a surprise who they are.
Yeah, I was going to say, we should keep it on wraps for now.
Also, yeah, because I'm like, who knows when certain stuff is going to premiere. But I do want to say that one of the guests is a published author.
Ooh.
And that's really wild to me. I don't think in a million years I ever thought that I was going to be able to interview like a real live author, somebody who's published a book. That's crazy to me. So I'm very excited, but I'm also very nervous because I feel like I'm going to be a complete idiot and I'm going to act more like an idiot than I already do. And I'm just like, I don't want to give a bad impression of who we are, but I feel like
you might feel that way, but it'll go fine.
I hope it'll go fine.
Everything will be fine.
I'm very excited for all of our guests that are on the docket, and we're working on a couple of other guests as well for the near future as well. So keep your eyes peeled for some special episodes that'll be coming soon. I'm very excited about those. All right, now the update. That isn't really an update. I just wanted to talk about it because I will explode otherwise if I don't. This one's more like a personal update. And it will also appear way behind the times because of when we're recording this, when this one is scheduled to release, all that kind of stuff. But I know for a fact I have mentioned Hannah Witten several times on this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with her writing. I love her writing. She's the reason I got back into reading because when I was younger, I struggled to read because I'm dyslexic. And it wasn't until like middle school, high school that I actually really found reading enjoyable. And I used to read for fun. I would like stay up all night reading. I was very voracious, albeit slow, but like I really, really liked reading. And then when I got to college, I got too busy to read. At least I got too busy to read for pleasure.
Yeah, I was going to say you were reading a lot.
I was reading all the time.
But not for fun.
It was never for fun. And then after college, I completely stopped reading because I was so busy, like just getting into the new job, getting into, this new stage of my life. It was crazy. And then a couple years ago, I got sick and I had to stay home for a couple of days. And somehow I saw an ad about one of Hannah Witten's books. It was called For the Wolf.
Oh, yeah, that series.
And I was like, let me try that. That looks interesting. I read that thing in like 24 hours. I was obsessed with it. It was a duology. It's part of the Wilderwood duology. I know I've mentioned that on the pod before as well. But after reading that duology, it like launched me back into reading as a hobby. And I love it. And so I have a very special place in my heart for Hannah Witten. And anyways, this is a long way of saying...
It's a long way of talking about Hannah Witten.
I love her so much. She's great. She just released the 3rd book in her Nightshade Crown trilogy. So that means it's also the final book. It's called The Nightshade God. I haven't gotten to it yet, at least as of this recording. Probably by the time this releases, I will have finished the whole trilogy. But I'm like 2/3 of the way through The Hemlock Queen, which is the second one. Oh my God, it's so good. You guys, everybody please go get this book. I am not paid by Hannah Witten in any way to like, I'm not sponsored by her to like, I'm not here promoting her book because I'm paid to do so. I just really, really like her writing and her books. And these new ones are fantastic. And I do want to say, especially if you do end up liking One Dark Window as we're covering it on the pod, I really feel like you'll like The Nightshade Crown because there's a lot of similar vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think Hannah Witten and Rachel Gillig are best friends. They definitely promote each other's stuff on social media all the time. So I'm like, you guys seem like best friends. So yeah, the only thing that I'm mad about with this update is that I don't have any other way to talk about it on the pod other than right now because I'm already well into it and I've already told you everything without recording anything.
I mean, you could always talk about them at the beginning of Writer's Block.
I could. Anyways, go get some books that you love or get books that I love and, you know, have a great time. Okay, so let's get into the book.
Yeah, tell me about what's going on.
So we are continuing One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. It's set in the Kingdom of Blunder, where long ago the Shepherd King made it. What are you laughing at?
I still think the town of Blunder is still funny.
It's true. So it's set in the Kingdom of Blunder, where long ago the Shepherd King made a deal with the Spirit of the Woods to share her magic with his people in the form of Providence cards. Along with the cards came the mist, which infected people with magic. Some of the Providence cards were lost over time, and the mist spread further and further. Our main character, Elsbeth Spindle, had become infected when she was 9 and has been keeping her magic a secret ever since. She's lived with her Aunt Opal since her father remarried. King Rowan, who is the current king, is holding a ball or some kind of festivity for the autumnal equinox, as he does every year, I believe. And all of the families of Blunder are invited. Last time that we talked, we learned that Elsbeth Uncle Tiern, who I'm probably going to continue to go back and forth between Tiern and Hawthorne because I still can't say the word Tiern or the name Tiern. But anyways, Elsbeth Uncle Tiern had obtained one of the 2 nightmare cards through some kind of nefarious means. We don't really know what happened, but we can assume he killed a highwayman for it. And he kept this card secret from his family for approximately 11 years.
Just a little bit of time.
So for this particular celebration of Equinox, he has decided that he wants to trade the card, the nightmare card, to the king in exchange for his daughter's marriage to one of the Rowan princes. Dun, dun, dun.
What a wise political move.
But why this year? That's what I want to know.
He can't pay the taxes this year.
But he couldn't pay the taxes the previous year.
And he feels like he's going to get kicked out.
Okay, fine. Whatever.
He's like, I said I'd be able to pay it this next year. I still can't pay it.
So the night before the family leaves for the equinox festivities, Elsbeth had a bizarre dream about the nightmare. I hesitate to use the word nightmare, one, because it wasn't that scary, but also like the fact that there's a character called the Nightmare. So when she has a bad dream, I'm like, what do I call that then? So it's a bizarre dream about the Nightmare, who is the monster that lives at the very least part-time, if not full-time, in her head. I had not dreamed since touching the Nightmare card, which was 11 years ago, by the way. I had not dreamed since touching the Nightmare card. Whatever his faults, the Nightmare did not disturb my wakeless hours. I didn't know what he did when I slept, and he did not answer when I asked. I used to think he slept too, but after so many years together, I realized he did not sleep at all. He simply disappeared into a part of my mind I could not reach. There, it was quiet, and when I slept, he roamed freely, unhindered by the current, the utter noisiness of my thoughts. It was as if, for once, I was trespassing on him. In my dream, I was in an ancient room covered in vines. The old wooden ceiling had rotted, revealing beams of light beneath a canopy of green. Birds chirped, rustling above me, the summer day warm and pure despite the cold, weathered stone around me. I could not recall how I'd gotten into the room. Like all dreams, it lacked a beginning and an end. In the center of the room stood a stone, wide and tall as a table. Seated upon the stone was a man, decorated in gold armor that had long lost its sheen. He was aged, older than my father, grisly and stern. He bore the weight of his armor without wavering, his strength deeply rooted. On his hip rested an ancient rusted sword with branches twisted into a crook carved into the hilt. Lost in thought, his head resting upon his gauntlets, he did not see me. I waited for him to look up, shuffling my feet on the leafy-strewn floor. When he finally saw me, I gasped, recognizing the sharp quality of his unnatural feline yellow eyes, the irises wide and the pupils narrow. For a moment he was silent. I realized I'd surprised him, intruded on a moment, a place the nightmare had not intended to show me. The room vanished, the noise of the birds muffling into silence. The trees were gone, replaced by tall shelves overflowing with books and tomes and scrolls. A sturdy desk forged from cherry wood replaced the stone. I stood in my uncle's library, my breath hitching in my lungs. The man in his armor had disappeared. In his place was a creature, more animal than man. Coarse black fur grew up the ridge of his back. He hunched over the desk, the long quality of his fingers making it impossible to tell where the flesh ended and claw began. His tail, furred and long, whipped menacingly like an angry cat's, and his ears, pointed, twitched at me. I watched him, fascination and dread knotting in my stomach. His yellow eyes narrowed. "You've come to spy?" I stuttered, not knowing how to answer. He was angry, I could tell. Still, I had no hand in the making of my dreams. I inhaled, searching for courage. Who was the man wearing the armor? He drew a claw along the desk, scratching at the wood. His lips, dark and thin, curled upward. "Someone long dead, I'm afraid." I stood in the center of my uncle's sheepskin rug, the familiar texture cold beneath my bare feet. So strange to hear a voice and almost never see the face behind it. I scrutinized his features, his dark mouth and short, jagged teeth. Creature, nightmare, man, whatever he was surely made for hauntings, frightening enough to scare the skin off any man. As the edges of the library faded, I blurted, "He had yellow eyes." The nightmare clicked his tongue against his teeth and smiled. He sat, perched upon my uncle's desk, looking down on me with those same gold yellow eyes. "Would you like to hear a story?" he whispered. His words echoed, the dream already beginning to fade. I nodded, the library around me eclipsing into darkness. "There once was a girl," he murmured, "clever and good, who tarried in shadow in depths of the wood. There also was a king, a shepherd by his crook, who reigned over magic and wrote the old book. The two were together, so the two were the same. The girl, the king, and the monster they became." I'm really intrigued by this. I just want to know more about the nightmare, but he's obviously a very elusive character, so I don't know how much we're actually going to get to know about him.
Are we sure it's still a he at this point?
I don't know.
Yeah, because the way that story was said, either.
The nightmare is Elsbeth? Is that what you're asking or proposing?
No, the nightmare is the queen.
Oh.
Or the lover of the king.
Interesting.
Instead, because the straightforward one is the nightmare is the king, but it's just the king's shadow.
But it's weird because he mentioned two characters, a girl and a king. And then they became one. So I do get where you're coming from of maybe it's the monster that they became like together as one.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm very intrigued by this dream. So I had to share it because I was like, what is going on here? I don't even know. Who is the man in the armor? I'm assuming the nightmare, but like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means.
It means remember the scene.
One of the weird things about the nightmare is that he often talks in riddles or rhymes, but not always. I think I quoted it last time where she does talk about him speaking in like rhymes and stuff like that, but there are times when he doesn't. So that's really strange that he doesn't always speak in rhymes. Like it almost feels like a curse that he sometimes has to abide by.
Or he's really old and he just likes fucking with people.
Oh, that's fair.
It's like, I want to tell you, but not really.
Well, because like, here's this one example. When Elsbeth had run into some highwaymen in the woods on her way home from her father's house, remember, because it was her birthday and whatever. She had called on the nightmare to help her escape, and when she got home, she was scared that they would report her, and she was talking to the nightmare about it, and the nightmare said that they won't report on you because if they do, they're going to report on themselves. So here's a quick snippet from that scene. "The nightmare and I were alone once more. My arms continued to burn, even when my lungs grew steadier. I rolled up my sleeves, staring at the inky black tributary of magic shooting down my veins, flowing from the crook of my elbow to my wrist. It looked just as it had that night 11 years ago, when the fever took hold of me. It looked the same every time I asked the nightmare for his help. I waited for the ink to burn off, grinding my teeth against the stinging warmth. Do you think they realized I'm infected? They're card thieves. Report you, and they report themselves. A few moments later, the warmth was gone, its ghost twitching up and down my arms. I leaned against the brick wall and heaved a rattling sigh. Why does it burn every time? I asked. But the nightmare had already begun to vanish into the dark chasm of my mind. My magic moves, he said. My magic bites. My magic soothes. My magic frights. You are young and not so bold. I am unflinching, 500 years old.
Oh, he's not that old.
Yes, he is. He's saying that he's 500 years old.
In magical beast time, that's not that old.
Okay. But within the same scene, he wasn't rhyming to start off with. He was like, if they report on you, they report on themselves. That's not a little rhyme scheme. But then a little bit later, he's like, and I didn't cut anything between those two lines of dialogue. I wrote the same. I got all of that in there. And then suddenly he's like, let me give you a little poem. And I'm like, what?
Whenever he's recounting something, it seems.
I guess.
He's more whimsical. But when it's like, calm down.
Shut the fuck up, Elsbeth.
You're freaking out for nothing.
Yeah.
Now let me tell you a rhyme.
The way that he's calming her down is the same way that a lot of people have been calming down babies these days, which is, you know how like people will just throw a piece of cheese at their kid and then it'll stick on their face and then it gets them to stop. It's the same kind of thing. He's like, let me just distract you so that you calm the fuck down. And I'm going to distract you by giving you a confusing ass riddle. So anyways, the next morning after she had this spooky dream, she and her family are on their way to Stone at Equinox. Stone is the name of the castle, by the way. So
Castle Stone.
Castle Stone in the Kingdom of Blunder. Like, what is going on with this naming? I have thoughts, but I just don't have the words to describe these thoughts about it. But anyways, on the way to the castle, Elsbeth and Ione have a little bit of a spat because this is where we find out officially that Tyrn intends to use the Nightmare card to land Ione a prince's hand in marriage. So Elsbeth is not super thrilled about this. She's like, that sounds supremely horrible because all we've ever heard of the princes is that they're awful. And Ione was like, how dare you make me feel bad about this? I was excited at the prospect of getting a better life and I just wanted you to be happy for me. And now you're just being a bitch, Elsbeth. So let me just read you this one part because I'm gonna try not to include absolutely everything that the nightmare says, but he does say things so strangely that I feel very inclined to include anything that he says. So he talks a little bit in this scene. So I peered across my shoulder at my uncle, where he walked in step with his sons. His expression was jovial, his mouth open in conversation. His beard had been trimmed, and his silk collar was finer than the ones he usually wore. I suspect your father's had plenty of time to decide what he and the king will barter over for the Nightmare card, I said, my voice grim. The voice in my head slipped through my mind, like wind whistling through a window. The hawthorn tree carries few seeds. Its branches are weary. It's lost all its leaves. Be wary the man who bargains and thieves. He'll offer your soul to get what he needs. Ione tucked her yellow hair behind her ear. Father asked, when he presents the Nightmare card to the king, that I come with him. My focus on my uncle broke. What? Why? She scrunched her lip from side to side, something she always did when she hadn't decided what to say. He wants to introduce me to Prince Hoth. I snorted. Sounds like a punishment, not a reward. Ione did not laugh. Her brow was creased, her hazel eyes distant. Too slowly, I began to understand. Wait, is Uncle trading the Nightmare card so that you and the High Prince may be acquainted? Ione shrugged, kicking a loose stone out ahead of her. Would that be a horrible thing? I blinked. How could it not be? The man's a brute. Both princes are. How do you know? She countered. Have you ever met them? They're destriers, I bit back. They're trained to be violent, horrid men. Not all of them. Your father was captain not long ago. The muscles along my jaw twitched. Besides, Ione continued, perhaps Hoth will be a different kind of Rowan king. The nightmare growled at the name Rowan, his claws scraping through my mind. So their conversation goes on for a bit until Ione doesn't like that Elsbeth is calling out the bullshit of the royal family, and she basically decides to give Elsbeth the silent treatment for the rest of the way to the castle. I don't know how long that is, but it seemed like a long time.
A couple hours.
At least. Elsbeth was left to consider how far into her mouth she had inadvertently shoved her foot, but she feels like she's not wrong for her disdain for the royals, and she's honestly worried that Ione will change into a horrible person if she starts playing political games, basically.
Yeah. If anything, she should be more worried about her sister's or her cousin's safety.
Well, she is. That's basically what she's saying. Is she's worried that her cousin is going to turn into a horrible person, but she's also worried that she's going to be mistreated or abused or used or manipulated in some way. Like she's worried. That's what she's worried about. So Elsbeth also reflects on the fact that this is probably why she shouldn't have come to the celebrations in the first place. Because remember last time that we talked, her stepmother, Miriam, had been like, we're invited to Equinox and you're not, even though I'm like, yes, she is. Everybody's invited, but whatever. But Miriam had pushed saying like, you really shouldn't come to Equinox. You remember the last time that you came and you embarrassed all of us because you kissed a boy? And she was like, yeah, I remember that. Okay, sure, I shouldn't go. And then when the Hawthorns got their invitation, she tried to convince her aunt. She was like, Aunt Opal, maybe I shouldn't go. And Aunt Opal's like, nonsense. You want to let Miriam win this fight? Fuck her. And so that's what made her in the end decide to go. But now she's like, I shouldn't have come. You know, this is a problem. So Elsbeth feels like she fucks everything up, including her friendship with Ione, and she's like, boo-hoo me. I don't like Elsbeth very much, which is maybe a little bit of a problem for reading this book. I do have a hard time when I don't like the main character sometimes. I don't know if it's that I don't like Elsbeth or if I don't like the Cinderella trope or if there's something about this that just tends to just irritate me so far. I'm gonna keep reading because I'm intrigued, but there are times when I'm like, Elsbeth, just grow up. Like, she's 20, but I'm like, grow up.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you more don't like the spoiled, my opinion is correct main character.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah. Okay, so anyways, they arrive at Stone, and apparently the Equinox celebrations are more than just like a dinner and a ball. The festivities, I think, are spread over multiple days, if not like a week or so at the castle. I only say that just because this stuff happens and then like right afterwards they're still at the castle and I'm like, wait, I thought it was one night, but it's not. It's multiple nights. So anyways, they arrive at the castle. They're shown to their rooms. The different houses also have clever garments with their literal family tree because, again, everybody's family is named after some kind of tree. So their family tree is embroidered onto their garments. So you know basically who you're talking to without even having to ask, which I'm like, that seems dangerous, but all right. It could be super helpful, but I feel like it can also get people into trouble, especially because the nightmare has a tendency to tell her to lie to people when they ask who she is. And she's like, I literally cannot because like it's right here. They can see exactly who the hell I am. There's this fancy dinner that happens, and when Elsbeth arrives at the dinner, she dodges the boy she'd kissed 3 years ago or whatever it was.
Oh, I think the boy still likes her.
He is definitely besotted. He is head over heels, puppy dog in love with her. He's still holding a candle for her or whatever that expression is. And this somehow brings shame to her family, even though I think he's from a pretty good family. I don't know why, but this is why Miriam was like, you kissed him and then he showed up and then his mom wanted to get to know us and blah, 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 blah. And I don't want that. And I'm like, don't you want to marry her off though? I don't understand. But anyways, so she's trying to avoid bringing shame upon the family. And so she's avoiding him and basically just trying to get through this with civil interactions at best. At the dinner, she's seated next to one of the Yu brothers, Y-E-U, not Y-O-U, Y-E-U brothers. And the Yus are, I guess, technically royals. The Yu brothers are the nephews of the king. And this particular Yu brother is the younger one. I want to say he's like 16. It's not really clear how young, but he is quite a bit younger than Elsbeth. And strangely enough, he gives off rapey vibes. I'm not a fan of him.
Yeah.
So his name is Emery. Emery Yu gets a little bit wasted. And he tries to get Elsbeth, at the very least, a little bit tipsy. But I get the sense he might have tried to drug her. And then when she felt like she needed some air, he followed her into the hall and tried to lead her to a secluded area. But then his brother tackles him and is like, get the fuck back into the banquet hall, Emery. And then he looks at Elsbeth and he's like, Have a pleasant evening. The brother is named Ravyn, and he's one of the king's special guards called the Destriers, and actually he's the new captain of the Destriers.
Oh.
Remember, her father used to be the captain of the Destriers, and now it's to this guy. And Ravyn is clearly meant to be, if there's more than one, he's meant to be one of the love interests of this book.
Okay.
If not the love interest of this book, and here's why.
Okay, quick question before we get into it. The Destriers,
whatever.
I like mine better.
Did you say Death Stringers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they the ones hunting the people who can use magic?
They help with the hunt, but the physicians are the ones.
Okay, I was just trying to get my...
Yeah, there's a lot of weird names. Or like titles, I guess.
Yeah, I was trying to get my titles straight. Okay.
So here's why Ravyn clearly is one of the love interests. Number 1, he's tall. That's like criteria number 1. Number 2.
He has raven black hair.
Correct. That's literally the next one on my list. Number 3.
He has a position of power.
Okay, that's somewhere in there, yeah. Number 4, he has gray eyes. The love interest always has a strange color eye. Gray is this one. Okay. Number 5, he's a destrier. Or, okay, you said he has a position of power. But specifically being a destrier, it means that he's got to be buff. He is fit. He is toned. He will be hot when he takes his shirt off. I know it's going to happen.
The best of the best.
He is probably super sexy.
Top warrior.
He also seems to be her enemy because she doesn't like destriers and he's a destrier and she has...
She just doesn't like destriers because her dad's a destrier.
Was a destrier. Anyways, so he's like an enemy. So this is going to be maybe like enemies to lovers a little bit, which I'm all for. I love enemies to lovers. I will say, again, Elsbeth kind of annoys me, but I will sit through any of it if there's enemies to lovers. I don't care how annoyed I am. I'm here for it. Okay, so he seems a little dangerous, and he saved Elsbeth in their first meeting. So obviously this is true love.
True love.
Love. True love. So I'm going to read you this little scene. I clenched my jaw and rubbed my eyes with the heels of my palms. I did not realize the others around me had stood to toast the king until a hand took me by the elbow and pulled me to my feet. To Equinox! The crowd cried, the clinking of crystal echoing throughout the hall. I raised my own goblet and met the toast of the boy next to me, the one who'd pulled me to my feet. I noticed a playful smattering of freckles across his nose beneath strange gray eyes. Oh, that's right. He's a U brother. I was like, wait, what? Oh,
U's just have gray eyes.
Okay, sorry. I'm dumb.
You confused yourself.
I did. I noticed a playful smattering of freckles across his nose beneath strange gray eyes. Thank you, I said. The boy topped off his wine, then mine. Are you well, miss? I took a deep swill from my goblet. When I looked back up, the boy was watching me. Never better, I said. He matched me with a strong gulp of wine. When he smiled, I caught myself wanting to smile back, the vibrancy in his unusual eyes contagious. I don't know you, I said. He was taller than me, though unquestionably younger. When he said his name, he hunched his shoulders and leaned in close, as if it were a secret. I'm Emery, he said. Emery, you. I choked on the wine lingering in the back of my throat. Across the table, my half-sisters watched me with mirrored expressions of curiosity. They, like I, were no doubt wondering how I'd managed to be seated next to the king's youngest nephew. My name is Elsbeth, I said, through tight lips. Emery took another sip of wine. To what family do you belong? Spindle. Elsbeth Spindle, he said, his eyes drifting across the table, then back to me. Elsbeth Spindle. Quite a mouthful. Servants delivered the first course of summer soup, and a lull rushed across the room, Blunder's powerful families keen to eat at the king's table. But my appetite was gone. I stared at the dish and did not move to touch it, the wine beginning to swirl unpleasantly in my stomach. I felt dizzy, tired, the alcohol turning my thoughts. A wave of nausea moved through me, somehow made worse by the swell of clamor in the great hall. So burning was the urge to flee from the room, I found myself gripping the chair. I forced myself to blink, the boy next to me almost forgotten. I'm sorry, I said. I'm not feeling like myself this evening. Are you unwell? No, I just need some air. Emery's chair scraped against the stone floor. When the king's nephew offered me his arm, I pulled back. There's no need. Emery smiled again, his lips and teeth stained purple. Easy does it, Spindle. Even I can see you don't want to be here. He reached for my arm. This time, I allowed him to pull me to a slow, hesitant stance. Emery and I swam upstream against a sea of servants carrying the next course on silver trays. I followed him out of the great hall, all the way to the grand staircase. There was no one around us. No Providence cards, no destriers. I gripped the railing at the bottom of the stairs and took a deep, swelling breath, my body slowly easing. I didn't notice the flagon of wine Emery had stolen until he passed it to me. "Care for more?" he said. I waved it away. Emery took a deep drink, wine sliding down his chin onto the green velvet of his finely embroidered collar. He wiped his mouth with his sleeve and smiled at me, a touch of absence in his gray eyes. "You look terribly pale," he said, holding the flagon out for me once more. When I waved it away the second time, my hand grazed his. "Thank you for your help," I said. "I can go the rest of the way on my own." For a moment, Emery said nothing, his eyes falling to where my fingers had touched the back of his hand. When he spoke, his voice was uneven. "I'll take you where you need to go. I know this castle better than the rats." I moved up the stairwell. "I can find my way." He caught me halfway up the stairs, closing the distance between us, fast as a snake. His breath smelled of wine. "Spindle," he said, the word slipping between his teeth like a hiss. He reached for me, his hand closing around my arm. I backed away until my spine pressed into the banister. The great room loomed below me. I looked over my shoulder, panic rising into my throat like bile. If I fell, if the boy were to push me over the rail, would the fall kill me? "Not kill," the nightmare said. "Merely maim. Break." I stared into Emery's face, trying to work out how to free myself from the strange, changeable boy. When I flinched, he cackled, curt rips of laughter echoing over the banister into the room below. His grip tightened around my arm. He lowered his other hand onto my wrist, his palm clammy as it rested against my bare skin. "I see you, Elspeth Spindle." His voice was near and far all at once, as if underwater. "I see a pretty maiden with long black hair and charcoal eyes. I see a yellow gaze narrowed by hate. I see darkness and shadow." His lips twisted into an eerie smile. "And I see your fingers. Long, pale, covered in blood." I froze. Trapped by dread and the boy's vice-like grip on my arm, I tried to shake him off. When he did not let go, I raised my other hand and slapped him. Hard. The mark from my hand darkened Emery's already flushed cheek. I moved to push away from him, to flee, but he held onto my arm, his grip so tight I cried out in pain. But before I could call into the darkness for the nightmare, I heard footsteps on the landing. A moment later, Emery released my arm, pushed with great force down the stairs by someone in a black cloak. I reeled and ran up the stairwell, only to trip on my dress. When I looked down the stairs, Emery was heaped in a pile at the bottom of the landing. A tall man leaned over him. I did not hear the words they exchanged. Emery's voice was broken by uncontrolled fits of laughter, but the low, even tones of the man were enough to still the boy. He pulled Emery off the ground and pointed him back in the direction of the great hall. The boy trudged, suddenly lifeless, returning to the dinner. I rubbed my arm and watched him go, but Emery did not glance my way, as if he'd already forgotten me. I was on my feet by the time the man approached. "I'm sorry for my brother, miss," he said, lowering his eyes. "His behavior is inexcusable." I stared at the tall, darkly cloaked man, my back stiffening. "Elm, my cousin, told me Emery had been drinking. I came to be sure all was well." At my silence, the man raised his gaze, observing me for the first time. Like his younger brother, his eyes were gray and stood out brilliantly against smooth copper skin. He watched me down a long, formidable nose, eyes searching my face. My breath faltered, a shiver crawling up my spine. Unmistakably handsome, he stood like one of the statues in his uncle's garden, cold and smooth as stone. He did not introduce himself. He did not have to. I knew who he was. Ravyn, the king's eldest nephew. My father's successor, captain of the destriers. I withered under his stare, but did not break our gaze, searching for courage I did not feel. "I didn't see you in the hall," I said. "Nor I you," he replied. "What is your house?" The nightmare responded with a hiss. I stiffened, the spindle tree embroidered on my sleeve betraying me. "Spindle," I said, taking a step backward. I know who your father is," Ravyn said, his eyes narrowing. "I also know Eric has only 2 daughters living at Spindle House. Why do you not live with your family, Miss Spindle?" I tucked a loose hair behind my ear. "I don't see how that's any of your business." If my cheek took him aback, the captain of the destriers did not show it. Still, I paled for my impudence, remembering with a pang just who I was talking to and how dangerous he was. "Excuse me," I said. "I'm very tired." Ravyn climbed the steps, his black cloak smelling strongly of the world outside the castle walls. Cedar and clove, smoke and damp wool.
Interesting.
Intriguing.
Exciting. What's up with this brother? He seems like he can do magic.
I was just going to say that. I think that brush of her skin on his let him be somewhat like prophetic. I don't know though. So he seems to be able to do magic, and he also seems creepy. And I don't know if that was totally rapey what he was saying, but it's...
Oh yeah, 100%.
It was like, bro.
It's like wine-stained teeth, dribbling like ugly guy.
Yeah. He's like getting close to her. He's touching her without her consent. He's holding really hard onto her wrist. And part of that was after she brushed him. But some of the stuff of being like, I can take you where you want to. I'm like, ew. Go away. You're 16 or whatever you are. You're clearly younger than her. Ugh. But specifically the fact that he mentioned a yellow gaze.
Mm-hmm. And blood on your hands.
Yeah, that's not coincidence because this is a book. Authors make choices. So like, this isn't a coincidence. Although I do think it would be really funny if he said all of this and then she just never circles back to Emery U. I would lose my shit. That would be so funny if he just says all this creepy stuff and it meant nothing. But anyways, also, one other reason why Ravyn U must be a love interest is because I forgot that she described him as unmistakably handsome.
Oh.
The love interests are always like, you like regret that they're handsome. You're like, I want to hate you so much, but you're so fucking hot. That's where she's at with him. True love.
True love. The only reason she doesn't like him is because he's dangerous.
But kind of hot.
He's dangerous because he has political power with the police.
So the next morning, Elsbeth is woken by her sisters and stepmother who were like, you are such an embarrassment to the family, but please, we would like all of the tea about what the hell was going on with Emery U last night. Like, we saw that you were talking to him. We saw you leave with him. What happened? Did you kiss him? Are we going to have a problem again? And she's like, no, nothing like that happened. They're like, we could make a relationship with him work to our advantage. And she's like, he is so much younger than me. That is so inappropriate. Anyway, she's like, okay, please leave me alone. I would like to get dressed for today's festivities. This day's festivities involved all of the men of Blunder going on a hunt. More or less. Most of the men of Blunder going on a hunt. And then the women were going to be taking a tour of the palace gardens. While Elsbeth is walking through the gardens, she starts by eavesdropping on some of the gossip. She chats with her aunt about the possibility of Emery maybe having his own magic, because she can't say this to her aunt, but in her head, she's like, how else would he have known about the Nightmare's eyes? And the Nightmare's like, it's a coincidence. And she's like, shut the fuck up. And then she does eventually try to find Ione to make up after their fight the previous day. But when she finds Ione, she notices that there's a pink glow coming from Ione's pocket, indicating that somehow Ione has been given the Maiden, one of the Providence cards.
Ooh.
So Elsbeth has kept the fact that she has magic a secret for a very long time. Basically, the people who know she'd been infected have also kind of been under the assumption that Elsbeth magic is pretty dormant. Like, they don't know about the Nightmare. They don't know about her ability to see Providence cards. So she can't just be like, Ione, what's that in your pocket? You know?
Ione, what the fuck?
But I do kind of hope that this leads into just the fact that, like, she can tell when there's a Providence card around. I kind of hope that there's a situation that comes up where somebody claims to have a Providence card and then she has to be like, that's a fake. You know what I mean? Like, because she's like, that's not what Providence cards look like or whatever. Like, because like especially because the twin alders is missing.
Oh.
I wonder if somebody's going to come up and be like, I have the twin alders. And she'll be like, no, that's not the twin alders. It's not it. It doesn't glow. You know, I don't know. Just an interesting thing. But that's neither here nor there. Ione is still mad at Elsbeth for saying that being set up to marry a Rowan prince would be awful. And Ione tries to continue to give her the silent treatment, but Ione and Elsbeth are such close sisterly type people that she does start talking to Elsbeth, but it is still kind of in an argument. And Elsbeth is like, I didn't realize that this whole arrangement would involve you getting a maiden card. And Ione is like, how did you know about the maiden card? And Elsbeth basically, instead of saying like, oh, it's like hanging out of your pocket or something like that, she's like, well, actually, I'm going to shift this conversation and ask if Houth gave it to you specifically and if he's going to ask you to use it and blah, 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 blah. And then Ione's like, Ione falls for the bait and I'm so mad about it because she's like, I don't get why you hate the Rowans so much. And it's true that some of this hatred seems pretty unfounded or at least odd, but I also get where Elsbeth is coming from to some degree of the kingdom and the royal family specifically have been behind the kidnapping of sick children and torturing them to understand their magic better. So it's like, okay, okay, like I can get her being like, he's a horrible person. Like King Rowan is a horrible person. The princes are horrible and all that kind of stuff. But I'm mad that this is one of the things that I don't like about Elsbeth is that she's like, I've kept my magic secret for 11 years. And then suddenly is like, how did you get a maiden card? And I'm like, bitch, do you not know how to like play this game or not? I don't understand.
Yeah, and how much of it is the reason she hates the royal family killing people with magic is because she has it and everyone else is like, yeah, fuck those magic people.
Yeah.
But since she's part of the oppressed group, she's like, this is so bad.
Right.
Whereas the other people don't even.
Yeah, we're like, Ione doesn't get it. Yeah. I don't know. It's just basically, I'm frustrated that she's like, oh, I had to think fast and like shift this conversation over. I'm like, you wouldn't have had to shift it if you would use your fucking brain. I'm so mad. I hated this conversation. I was
instead of going like, what happened?
Yeah, like what's going on? Or like, I don't know, just say you're sorry even if you're not. Just to see if you can get more. Like to me, if I don't know what I would do in this situation because I'm not in this world, but if I was in this world and I was in Elsbeth's place and I saw that Ione had a maiden card and if I wanted to know more about it, I would want Ione to tell me that she got a maiden card so that she would also probably tell me how she got the maiden card. And so I would be like, I'm so sorry, Ione. I'm sorry I upset you. I was wrong. You were right. Let's be best friends. And then invite her to tell me about like what's been going on, how's her equinox been and whatever. But instead she just goes in and is like, you're still wrong, Ione. And I'm like,
yeah. Side note, do we know what the maiden card does?
We do eventually, yes.
Oh, okay. I'll drop it for now.
So basically, Elsbeth sidesteps again and says, please don't use the maiden card. I don't want to see you changed. And I'm assuming most Providence card come with the risk of being corrupted in some way because the Nightmare card also has like this, if you use this too much, then your worst fears are brought to light or something like that. So the maiden card probably also has something like that. So this is what there's like this was a little epigraph at the beginning of the chapter. It's like a little poem. I don't know if this is what it says on the maiden card or like if this is a poem somewhere else, but it says this. Be wary the pink, be wary the rose, be wary of beauty divine unopposed. Her thorns will grow sharp, she'll eat her own heart. Be wary of beauty divine unopposed. Ione thinks that Elsbeth is jealous or something, and she's still angry at her, so she kind of stomps off, leaving Elsbeth to ponder some more stuff with the nightmare. The nightmare stalked the shadows of my mind, whispering, the berry of the Rowans is red, always red. The earth at its trunk is dark with bloodshed. No water nor cloth can lessen its spread. He'll ask for a maiden, then turn her heart dead. My stomach dropped, my anger with my cousin turning to desperation. I reached out for her hand, locking my eyes with hers. I don't know what Uncle bargained for the nightmare card, but I beg of you, Ione, please do not use the maiden. My throat tightened, and if Hoth Rowan asks you to marry him, you must not say yes. I saw the downturn of her lips, the flash of tears in her hazel eyes, the map of fine lines tiptoeing around her eyes. You ask so much of me, Elspeth, and all of it for yourself. I shook my head, vehement. Can't you understand? You are perfect, Ione, just as you are. The gap in your teeth, your voice, the lines next to your eyes when you smile. The maiden will steal those things from you. I clenched my jaw, fighting the rising lump in my throat. The Rowans offer it as a gift, but they do it to control you, to distract you, to make you beholden to them. Please do not let them. Tears were falling from my cousin's eyes, but she didn't wipe them away. She let them fall down her cheeks and slip into the creases of her face. When she spoke, her voice cracked. Do you love me, Elsbeth? She said. Something in my chest snapped. More than anything. She took a rattling breath. Then slowly, as if bolstered by an invisible force, Ione's gaze grew stronger, harder. Still, her voice shook. Then let me make my own choices. She pulled her hand from mine, her steps so light I hardly heard them, then disappeared without a backward glance, leaving me alone, bereft with the dying roses.
Interesting. Because if you think about it from Ione's perspective, she is potentially becoming queen.
Yep.
And she's like, I'm going to be the end-all be-all. What's your deal?
Well, and she's also like, maybe the Rowan princes are brutes, but maybe they can be softened by somebody like me. And I get what the Rowans have done to the sick children and whatever. has been terrible. But again, I'm on your side, Elsbeth. Having somebody on your side and that much power is a good thing. Or it could be. And like, she's treating Ione like Ione's an idiot and that like she doesn't know what's going on. I think Ione does know what's going on. I think she's trying to play a very smart political game.
Yeah, Ione's like, I'm willing to play this game because the rewards, the potential rewards. I know they're playing some kind of game. They're scheming. This isn't for my benefit necessarily. It's for theirs. But at the same time, what can I still get out of this?
Right.
So she's saying like, why? She's asking, do you actually love me? Because you're blocking this path forward for me. I don't want to stay in my dad's manor forever.
Right. Well, and do you actually love me? Because if you did, you would let me make my own choices, whether it would be to stay or to go. Like, you would tell me, like, I think it's a bad idea and these are my concerns, but it's up to you kind of thing. That's what being a good friend and being somebody who loves you would do kind of thing and would help you through whatever you decided. So, I don't know. I think it's really interesting. I like Ione a lot better than Elsbeth, I'm going to say. So far, I'm like, she sounds great. Elsbeth is fine, but she bothers me. So Elsbeth again breaks away from the crowd because she's getting upset herself. She finds an old poplar tree to sit beneath, and it's really off the garden's path. She's had to walk through like thorns and shit like that. She sits, she thinks, she discusses with the nightmare. The nightmare warns that the maiden card is probably one of the most misunderstood cards, and that it's not merely used for vanity. So what I'm assuming is that people use the maiden card. It doesn't come out directly and say it, but I'm assuming the maiden card is used to make yourself beautiful. But I don't know what, like, I'm assuming like your soul becomes very shallow or something like that. I don't really know. But Elsbeth doesn't want to hear it from the nightmare. She's like, shut the fuck up. I don't want to talk about this with you. And she tries to pull herself together. But during this time, when she's like trying to get herself together, Ravyn Yu finds her.
Oh, he's not out hunting.
Not only that, he has a nightmare card in his pocket.
Oh, that's who got the nightmare card.
Well, okay, at first I was wondering if that's what it was, if the king had already given the nightmare card up, but I don't know that. Like, we don't know that. We didn't see that happen, and I don't know that it didn't happen, but there's 2 nightmare cards, remember?
Mm-hmm.
So we know of the one with the uncle, and if he has given it up, then maybe the one that Ravyn has was the same as the one that the uncle had, but it's also possible that Ravyn already had his own.
Mm.
Or, like, I don't know, it's a possibility. And one of the ways that it was described in here, I don't believe that the one that Ravyn has is the same one as the uncle.
Okay.
So Ravyn finds her in the garden and he's like, girly pop, what did you do to your hands? And she's like, I was admiring the roses and I got too close and they went, meow. And he takes a look at them, which of course solidifies his place in the love interest box, because we all know that when a guy looks at a girl's hands in a book, they're gonna bang later. So I'm obsessed with their love. They hate each other right now, but I love them. Anyway.
I don't think he hates her.
I don't think he does, but she hates him and I love it. I'm here for it. So he asks her, he's like, oh man, what'd you do to your hands? Oh, it doesn't look too bad. Why were you walking alone in the forest a few nights ago? And she's like, excuse me, what? And then she realizes, she's like, oh my God. Were you one of the highwaymen that accosted me? And then I beat the shit out of all of you and then I ran? Was that you? Were you one of them? And turns out he was.
Oh, he was a highwayman.
Miss Spindle. I whirled, the depth of the voice behind me striking me like a blow to the stomach. Ravyn Yu watched me with gray eyes, his head tilted to the side. He looked like his namesake, the Raven. Sharp, intelligent, striking. My gaze did not linger on the captain's face. I was too caught up in the color, the light radiating from his breast pocket. It was darker than the maiden, but just as strong. Dread curled my chest, and I choked on air. I had seen that hue of velvet before. Burgundy. Rich and blood red. The second nightmare card. See, this is why I think it's not her uncle's, because she says it's the second one.
Huh.
How does she know it's the second one, though, is weird.
Yeah, unless it's like she said, the second card, the nightmare card, and there's supposed to be a comma in there or something. I don't know.
Well, that would be a really shitty place to have a typo. Ravyn shifted his weight. When he moved, I noticed an array of knives sheathed across his belt. What did you do to your hands, Miss Spindle? He asked. When I managed to speak, it was through clenched teeth. I was admiring the roses. An invisible string pulled at the corner of Ravyn's lips. He approached. May I? He said, gesturing to my hands. I was rooted, frozen. He took my left hand, turning it over to examine my palm. His skin was rough, but his touch was gentle, his hand easily covering mine. They're definitely gonna bang, comparing hand sizes. Sorry. Anyways. His skin was rough, but his touch was gentle, his hand easily covering mine. He did not touch the cuts from the rose thorns, but merely observed them. He did the same with my other hand. When he'd finished, his eyes moved to my face. Forgive me, Miss Spindle, but I must ask you something. I slipped my hand out of his grasp, my throat tightening. Yes? Why were you on the forest road, alone at nightfall 15 days past? The shock of seeing the nightmare card in his pocket disappeared, replaced by a cold, nauseous terror. The sound of insects and the beat of the owl's wings came back in vivid detail. I stared into Ravyn's face, perhaps for the first honest time, and could not recognize it. But the highwaymen had worn masks. My eyes lowered to Ravyn's belt. There it was, plain as day. The ivory hilt, the dagger he'd pressed to my chest. It's him, I gasped. I assaulted the bloody captain of the Destriers! That was all in her head. See, this is where it gets confusing. But anyways. The nightmare's claws scraped through the darkness, the hair along his spine raising. Let me out, he hissed. Across from me, Ravyn Yu was calm, his stance non-aggressive, his arms folded across his chest. He did not act like the same dangerous man I'd met on the forest road, but he was. And I'd attacked him. I'd attacked a Destrier, a crime punishable by death. He prowled the forest road for cards, said the nightmare. A crime also punishable by death. A crime I alone was witness to. I took several steps back. You must have me confused with someone else, Captain. I know better than to walk the forest road alone after dark. Ravyn raised his dark brows. Yours isn't a face I'd soon forget, Miss Spindle. Aw, they're in love. Sorry. When he asked the question a second time, there was an edge to his voice. What were you doing on the forest road? I glanced again at the dagger on his belt, but he made no reach for it. He simply held me in his austere gaze, seemingly untouched by the panic that clutched my throat in a stranglehold. Around me, the mist was thick, the smell of salt lingering in the dense air. I could no longer hear the women in the garden. I could not even discern which direction the castle was. I'm terribly sorry, Captain, I said, stepping back into the mist. My family is waiting for me. Help me escape, I called into the darkness of my mind. Now! I tore away from the captain of the Destriers into the thick, impervious mist. We were swallowed immediately, the nightmare and I, the captain, and the wood disappearing behind us. My heart raced and my hands shook, but if I could lose myself in the mist, there was a chance I could lose Ravyn Yu as well. He's coming, the nightmare called. I hiked up my skirt, veering left. I'd entered a field, the wheat harvested, the remaining crop left to decay among hardening soil. The stalks were slippery beneath my feet, but I did not trip. He came through the mist like a bird of prey, his strong arms reaching out for me. I faltered, my footsteps tangled, but the nightmare's reflexes were sure. Before Ravyn could catch me, I'd already scurried away, my heart a war drum in my chest. Stop! His voice called through the mist. I'm not going to hurt you. Just wait a moment. Somewhere in the distance, I heard the bay of hounds. I swerved away, but my stumble had disoriented me, leaving me directionless. Still, I was faster than the captain. I was going to get away. I was going to live. I just needed to. The smell of salt hit my nose, as if someone had thrust icy seawater in my face. I felt it in my ears, my eyes, my nostrils, into the roof of my mouth. I coughed, gasping frantically for air, my mind and body gripped by something I could not fathom. Wait, Elspeth Spindle! A deep voice called in my head. I'm not going to hurt you! I screamed. My foot caught on the dirt clods, and I fell, flattened by gravity and the sound of Ravyn Yu's voice in my head. I clasped my hands over my ears and screamed again, terror lashing me like the thorns in a bramble. He was upon me with a flurry of burgundy color. He slid to the ground next to me, his hand quick to cover my mouth. Hush, he said, winded. They'll hear us. The dog's baying grew louder. I could hear the thunderous beat of the men on horseback, their looming laughter echoing eerily through the mist. It was the king and his men, returned from the hunt. My fingers shook, the heat in my arms white hot, the nightmare's strength burning through me. I slapped Ravyn's hand away from my mouth and jerked to a stand, ready to flee back into the mist. But the captain of the Destriers caught me by the leg, and I fell onto the ground. Sorry. I just, this scene in my head is really funny. He captures her, and she's like, get the fuck off of me, and then she stands up, and then he just, trips her up. Anyway, sorry.
I was like, get back here.
But the captain of the destriers caught me by the leg, and I fell again onto the hard soil. Get off! I cried. The nightmare's strength flexed through my muscles. When Ravyn did not release my leg, I twisted, sending sharp kicks into his chest and face. The sound of voices echoed through the mist, closer than before. Enough! Ravyn seethed, his nose bleeding and jaw red. Another sound and we're both dead. I could almost hear what they were saying, the men on horseback, the growls of their dogs, the nervous whinnies of their horses. If I were to call out to them, they would surely hear me. Be still, the nightmare hissed, anticipating me. The king is not a friend. My veins burned, the smell of salt lingering in my nose. My sleeve had been torn, and my hair, loosened by the tussle, fell from its braid down my back. I twisted the crow's foot in my pocket over and over. Ravyn watched me, his eyes fixed on my arm. I looked down and sucked in a breath, trying to cover my bare skin with the tatters of my sleeve. But it was too late. He'd seen my veins, dark and twisted. When he reached out to touch my arm, I jerked away. I'm not going to hurt you, he repeated. You, on the other hand? He wiped his bloody nostrils on his sleeve, wincing. Fuck. He pinched the bridge of his nose. That's twice you've handed my ass to me and run off.
Beat that shit out of him and run away.
I doubted I was the first to take a shot at the captain's prominent beak-like nose. It was too easy a target. And I felt no remorse. I did not see a handsome young man with wild eyes and a bloody nose. All I could see was a destrier. Yes, you fucking can see that he's a handsome young man. You're in love with him. Just admit it.
You literally just said I couldn't see it.
I couldn't see it, but I totally saw it because I wouldn't have said that if I didn't see it.
I didn't see his handsome nose that I beat.
I beat the shit out of.
You and your pretty nose. Kick the shit out of him.
I did not see a handsome young man with wild eyes and a bloody nose. All I could see was a destrier. You used a nightmare card on me, I hissed. Get out of my head. Ravyn pulled the burgundy light from his pocket and held the card in his hand for me to see. His nightmare was identical to my uncle's, the monster on its face just as fearsome. Ravyn shot me a narrow glance and tapped the card 3 times, then slid it back into his pocket. There, he said. I'm no longer using it. He was too still, too stern to read, and I couldn't trust a man I could not predict. Ravyn's focus returned to my arm. When I looked down at my torn sleeve, we both watched my arm, pale but for the tributary of ink that coursed through my veins. The infection's magic, black as night. The nightmare watched Ravyn Yu through my eyes, his voice slick and untrusting. What creature is he? He asked, with mask made of stone. Captain? Highwayman? Or beast yet unknown? The echoes in the mist faded, the king and his men moving farther away. At first the captain said nothing, his gray eyes lost in the darkness, twisting down my arm. I waited, unmoving. When Ravyn finally spoke, his voice was controlled. This is why you ran, he said. No one talked about the infection. It lived like the dark dog of death, watching blunder, waiting just beyond the tree line. Feared. Stoked by his physicians and destriers, King Rowan fed that fear. Neighbors turned against one another at any sign of fever. And with so much disquiet, so much fear, hate always followed. I saw it in their eyes, heard it in their voices. The people of Blunder hated those who caught the infection almost as much as the infection itself. It trapped them in perpetual surveillance, their eyes tired and anxious, their lips hewn by tight lines of apprehension. But as I watched Ravyn Yu's face, his gray eyes tracing the darkness in my veins, there was no fear, no resentment in his gaze, only concern and wonder. I'd expected shackles, to be dragged off through the field and thrown in the dungeon, but the stillness of his body next to mine was enough to quiet those thoughts, if only for a moment. Even the nightmare waited in silence. Now what? I said. His eyes flickered, returning to my face. What do you think happens next, Miss Spindle? As quickly as it had stilled, my apprehension returned. My shoulders stiffened. I'm not going to the dungeon. Better you kill me than take me there. I'm not going to kill you, he said, raising himself to a stance. I'm not even going to arrest you. But we need to get inside. When he offered me his hand, I ignored it. I twisted the crow's foot in my pocket and stared at the captain of the destriers, wary of a trap. He stepped through the mist, headed north. When I did not move to follow him, he turned his gray eyes, unreadable. I told you, I called after him. I'm not going to the dungeon. Nor am I, Elspeth Spindle. When I still didn't move, he crossed his arms over his chest and spoke sharply. You are in no danger. You have my word. Your infection does not concern me. I merely wish to understand the gift you possess, and I have no intention of discussing it in an open field. I unfurled myself from the ground slowly, My back arched like a cat's, never taking my eyes off the captain. I'll save you the trouble, I said. I have no magic. I wouldn't call the turn of his lips a smile, but it was perhaps the best he could do after the kicks I dealt to his face. You're a decent liar, he said, turning his back to the mist. You'll fit right in. Beast yet unknown, then, the nightmare murmured.
Okay, she's getting recruited to a ragtag team.
And that's where I'm at.
That's a pretty good spot.
Fascinating.
Very so. Very much so.
I'm curious what gift he is talking of if he is not talking about her infection or her magic.
Interesting. Might be talking about the other nightmare in her head.
Maybe. But interesting. I'm intrigued. I think he's a good guy, Ravyn.
Yeah.
You. I really hope that he doesn't like turn around and stab us all in the back because that would suck. And I'm not here for that. I am here for her being like, you're a horrible person. And then finding out that he's misunderstood and whatever. And that he wants to help and do whatever and all that kind of stuff. I'm curious why he moonlights as a highwayman.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why he was like wanting to steal cards.
That's for his ragtag resistance group that he's bringing her to.
I love that. I'm here for it. I feel bad when I don't like the main character, but I really don't like the main character. But like, I think hopefully she grows and I will grow to like her. And I guess I don't dislike her. She's just not my fave. She annoys me a lot.
Yeah.
But I also think that I am not a huge fan of the Cinderella type stuff, like having the stepmother that's just evil for no reason, the stepsisters who are whatever. Actually, they're not even her stepsisters. They're her half-sisters.
Her half-sisters.
But yeah, I'm curious where this is going to go. I'm curious to learn more about the world and the history of it and the lore and everything like that. So I don't know. I'm curious what's going to happen with Ione and how she plays into this political game.
I'm excited for Ione's story.
I'm so excited for her story. I'm also very excited. I think there's a part of me that's really excited for Ione's story and for us to meet at least one of the princes, because there's two. There's Hoth, and I don't remember what the other one's name is. But the second book is called Two Twisted Crowns. So that makes me think that Ione, if she does become queen, gets really entangled in all of this. And I swear to God, if Elspeth becomes queen, I'm going to be like, I quit. Because that's not what I want. I want her and Ravyn Yu to be in love, though. Oh my gosh, I forgot to write this in the updates. I knew that when I was writing the updates that I forgot something. Here's another update. Last time we were chatting, and I had said that I described this as a gothic fantasy.
Yeah.
And you didn't totally believe me. And you're like, what does that even mean? Because you're like, is it like architecture? And is it like the way that the Gothic churches are and stuff? And I'm like, sort of, but not really. I had to look it up because you sowed enough seed of doubt in my brain. But I was right. Gothic fantasy, or not fantasy, but Gothic literature in general is anything that is designed to inspire fear. Well, hold on. Let me bring up the Wikipedia page again because I will otherwise forget exactly how they said it. Gothic literature. Gothic fiction, sometimes referred to as Gothic horror, is a literary aesthetic of fear and haunting. The name of the genre is derived from the Renaissance era use of the word Gothic. Gothic fiction is characterized by an environment of fear, the threat of supernatural events, and the intrusion of the past upon the present. So far, I feel like this story hits all of those characteristics.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of fear, there's the threat of supernaturalness, and the intrusion of the past of the Shepherd King fucking up everybody's life with the Providence card, including the forest.
Okay.
So was I wrong? No, it's a Gothic fantasy.
Yeah. I'm more used to grim dark, which is its definition is it's a subgenre of speculative fiction with a tone, style, or setting that is particularly dystopian, amoral, and violent.
I wouldn't say that that characterizes this.
No, it doesn't, but...
That's what you're used to?
Yeah.
Is that what you think of when I say Gothic?
No, when you said Gothic, the only thing I had adjacent to it was just architecture, which is why I started the conversation. I was trying to understand.
Well, according to the Wikipedia page, which I still have open, Gothic fiction is strongly associated with the Gothic revival architecture of the same era. English Gothic writers often associated medieval buildings with what they saw as a dark and terrifying period, marked by harsh laws enforced by torture, with mysterious, fantastic, and superstitious rituals. The literary Gothic embodies an appreciation of the joys of extreme emotion, the thrills of fearfulness, and awe of the inherent... Okay, whatever. Yeah.
I'd say this hits the box perfectly.
It does. I think so. Anyways, did we learn anything today?
I learned just don't trust people with purple stained teeth.
Okay, good advice. Good advice. How do they get stained purple? It doesn't matter. If they're
if they're purple, something's unright with the world.
I didn't really learn anything about your games.
Mostly because you played them with me.
Yeah, but I did learn through playing those games that I am not good at games. Well, where can people find us?
People can find us on Facebook.
At A Pot of Sass and Sarcasm.
They can follow us on Instagram.
At A Pot of Sass.
They can check out your story graph.
It's our story graph.
Okay, when I put something on it, we'll see.
You can check it out at Aposas, APOSAS.
They can become patrons
at patreon.com/A Pot of Sass and Sarcasm.
They can send us an email
at apotofsass@gmail.com.
Or they can visit our website.
Aposas.com, APOSAS.com. That's right. Join us there. Well, thank you so much for listening. We genuinely appreciate everyone who listens. And we seriously hope that you keep listening. Did I skip something?
Yeah.
What did I skip?
You can listen to new episodes most Sunday. Oh! You can listen to new episodes Saturdays.
Wherever you find podcasts, and please don't forget to rate, review, and share. It seriously helps us out, in addition to your listens, that we still very much appreciate. We do appreciate everybody listening.
And we hope you keep listening.
And we hope you stay sassy.
Later.
Ugh. There is a tiny hair in my microphone and it's tickling my jaw.
There's a hair on your muff?
Get the fuck out of here.